Alrighty then, let's take a look at factoring quadratics of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. In other words, let's practice factoring when we have a number in front of our x squared, or we have a leading term other than 1. Okay, so in this example, I've got 5x squared plus 14x plus 8. The first thing I want to do to try and factor this guy is multiply the first number times my last number. Some people call that the AC. So when we do, we get positive 40. Now, because this product is positive, I know the two numbers I'm looking for that multiply. I'm going to list out all the factors of 40. They both have to either both be positive or both be negative, since this is a positive 40. So I could go through the list: 1 times 40, 2 times 20, 4 times 10, 5 times 8, and I think those are all the factors of 40. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to pick these two that must add to give me the middle number, which is positive 14. Okay, well, since both of these numbers are going to have the same sign, right, and I'm looking for a positive 14, these are going to both be positive numbers. So positive 1 plus positive 40, well, that's 41. And although that's backwards of 14, that's not it. So those are the ones I'm looking for. 2 plus 20 would be 22, and that's not a positive 14, so those aren't the two numbers. 4 plus 10 is 14. Aha! Since 4 times 10 is 40 and 4 plus 10 is 14, this is the pair of numbers that's going to help me factor. Now from there, to factor this trinomial, I'm going to start off by opening up my two parentheses. I'm going to take this first number, 5, and put it in both parentheses. So I put a 5x and a 5x. Notice I copied the 5, but I split the x. Now I just fill in the two numbers that I found over here in my list: positive 4 and positive 10. It doesn't matter which order you put them in. I could put the 10 in the first parentheses. Now I look at each of these parentheses and I say to myself, can the numbers in this parentheses be simplified? In other words, can they both be divided by the same number? Well, 5 and 4 can't be divided by anything, so that parentheses is already simplified. But in the second parentheses, if you notice, couldn't I divide both of these by 5? And by doing that, I would get the parentheses with the numbers x plus 2 inside of it. And this would be your factoring. Now, again, factoring should be the opposite of multiplying. If I wanted to check my work, I could actually multiply these two binomials out again by distributing the 5x. So I get 5x squared. 5x times 2 is plus 10x. Distribute the 4. Now I get plus 4x. Distribute the 4 and I get plus 8. Combining like terms, I get 5x squared plus 14x plus 8. So as a check, since I got back to the beginning, I know that this is my answer. Let's take a look at another example. So I've got 6x squared minus 13x plus 5. So the first thing I do is I multiply the first and the last. So I get positive 30. I'm looking for all the factors of positive 30. So it'll be 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. I think those are all the factors of 30. Now, out of this list, the ones that I'm looking for, since this is a positive, they're going to add to negative 13. Well, since both numbers have to multiply to give me a positive, but yet add to give me a negative, I know the two numbers I'm looking for must both be negative. So it could be like negative 1 and minus 30, or negative 1 plus negative 30 is negative 31. Well, again, that's backwards. That's not it. So those numbers don't work. Negative 2 and negative 15 is negative 17. Well, those aren't the magic number of negative 13, so that doesn't work. Negative 3 minus 10 is negative 13. Oh, there it is. So the two numbers I'm looking for are negative 3 and negative 10. So I come over, I open up my two parentheses, I copy the first number over again in both parentheses, I fill in minus 3 and minus 10, And then I try to simplify each parentheses. Well, let's see, this first parentheses can be divided by 3, both numbers, so I get 2x minus 1. The second parentheses can be divided by a 2. Now we get 3x minus 5. And there's your factoring. And again, if you want to check your work, you can multiply it out. Let's do one more. If I have 6x, wait a minute, that looks exactly like example B. 6x squared minus 13x plus 5. 6x squared minus 13x minus 5. So the difference here is this subtraction sign. So when I multiply the first and the last, this time I'm going to get negative 30. So that the two numbers I'm looking for, since they have to multiply to give me negative 30, well, one of those numbers has to be positive and one will have to be negative. Now my list will be the same as my list before. But this time, since one number is positive and one number is negative, I know that the two numbers I'm going to have to look for out of this list will subtract to equal negative 13, which is my middle number, right? So let's see here. Since this answer, when I subtract, is negative, I know that the bigger number has to be the negative number. So if I did 1 minus 30, well, that's negative 29. Is this a negative 29? No, so those aren't it. 2 minus 15 equals negative 13. Is this the middle number? Oh, it is. So, right there, the second set of numbers in the list show me my answer. I want to use 2 and 15, where the 2 is going to be the positive number, and the 15 is going to be the negative number. So I open up my parentheses. I copy the front number twice. I put plus 2 and minus 15. And then I simplify each parentheses. Well, this can be divided by 2, so you get 3x plus 1. This can be divided by 3, both numbers, so you get 2x minus 5. And there you go. That's the answer to this factoring. And that's how we factor quadratics with a leading term or other than 1. Okay? See you guys in class.